Okay, so this is the VMforce application that I presented last week with VMware at Dreamforce in San Francisco. So some people weren't there and they asked me to see the demo, so I thought I'd put together a quick video. Um, the application was actually built using Spring STS, Spring Roo, and Spring MVC. So if you've used Java before, for instance like Tomcat, you'll find that Roo and Spring itself is going to be much easier to work with. It takes care of a lot of dependencies for you, maintains your stack for you, your configuration files, maybe even does a lot of things in the background for you. And then Roo's just kind of magical where it updates, your POJOs for you and your web layer for you automatically. It does a lot of things that you don't want to do, so it takes care of it for you. So this is a quick demo. I'll show you the UI and then I'll walk through some code real quick, and then we'll probably post the code later. So the use cases, I work for a nonprofit, I donate some time to them, and they actually have a international self-service portal. So they ship medical supplies overseas to companies, and we have an application that we're moving from, it's an on-premise Java application to force.com. So typically a hospital, let's say in Angola, would come to the self-service portal, they'd create a shipment, then they would browse the inventory looking for sutures and gauze and whatever, and they would add those items to their shipment, and then they would finalize the shipment and more or less check out, and we would ship it. It's kind of like a shopping cart paradigm. So this is a small demo I put together with that kind of use case. So this is actually the default layout you get from Spring Roo. It looks pretty nice, and you can just make some modifications in there. So this is the welcome screen here. So one of the nice things that you get from Roo is you get a lot of scaffolding automatically. So you can do things like, CRUD a lot of the entities that are already in the database. So I can CRUD these, and I can go ahead and I can edit them, make changes to them right here. Typically wouldn't do that as a customer, but it's nice for the demo. Same thing with the inventory items. We can look at all the inventory items. So you can see that the ones I have here will be the same that I have in Salesforce, and I'll go through that in a second here. So that's the scaffolding. So the first thing I want to do as part of the use case is I want to look at my shipments. So I'm a customer from Angola, I log in, these are all my shipments. Okay, so now if I hop over to Salesforce, I can actually look and see, okay, here's all the shipments. You'll see these match up right here with what we're showing right here. So they would simply select the shipment that they want to work on, this one right here, and they would say that, okay, here's the status of the shipment, what type of container it is, where it's going to, how many items are currently in it, how many they've selected for this shipment, and how many they've actually reserved. So let's go here and look and see what they have. So they have none in their shipment right now. So let's go back here real quick in Salesforce, and we'll look at the inventory items, and you can see we have all these items here and the categories and their status in here. Alright, so they may say, well, let's go ahead and add some items to this shipment. So I'll look at these, and I want these product categories. I can either add all that are in this category, or I can add a certain quantity. So let's just take 4 boxes of surgical gloves. So I'll add that. Now you can see that the items have been updated to 4, and there's 4 selected. If I go back here and refresh, you'll see that it's selected these 4 and it's added to this shipment. Okay, so now they may say, well, I want to reserve these so that no one else grabs these. So I'm going to reserve these. That kind of locks them in. Now you see that we have 4 items, 0 selected and 4 reserved. If I go back and refresh this again, you'll see that these are all marked as reserved. So let's go back and add some more items now. So I want to grab, let's see, these 2 hyperinflation systems, and now I have 6 items, 2 selected and 4 reserved. And let's look at the items in this shipment. So now I get a little printout of all the different items and their status in here. And one thing they want to do is they have a manifest. So when they actually want to ship their equipment, they have to print out a manifest. So we may view a manifest, which gives them a little different view of things. And then let's say they wanted to just go ahead and dump everything out of there and start all over again. They can actually remove all of these items from the shipment itself. Now you see that it's back down here, 0 for each one of these. And if I look back at the inventory items, you'll see that they're all available again. So that's kind of the use case. One thing that's neat about this also is that it does enable chatter right away. So if I go back to shipments, I look at my shipment, chatter is enabled, and it's easily able to actually go in there and configure different fields to be updated via chatter. So now I can see that here's where I create the shipment, I add the 4 items to it, I change the number of items to 6, and then I change them to 0. So I'll show you how you can enable chatter for these entities right away. It's very, very simple. So that's kind of the UI layer of it. Let's go and look at the code real quick here. So here's Spring STS. Looks very similar to what you would see VMforce.com development. It uses Eclipse, so it's really easy to grasp. And this is actually our entity. This is actually, it models the custom object in Salesforce. You'll see things look pretty familiar. You get your name, country type, status, items. One of the neat things here is that this is all it takes to enable chatter with this entity, as the market is true. So that's pretty simple. Once you do that, you can go back into Salesforce and configure that entity to chatter about certain fields. Now, one thing I'm going to look at is we have a bunch of controllers. So you'll see, let me go back here real quick here. So if we go back here, this is this page right here, the home index, displays the list of the shipments that we have. So if I go and look at this controller, here's a home controller. It's default for home index. And all it's doing is run this SOQL query that selects these records. I get a max of 5, and I get a list, and I add them to the model in view, and I pass that model in view back to the JSP page. So here's the JSP page for that page for that controller. And you'll see it looks very standard. You get welcome information, a table, and here's where we iterate over the collection, and we actually show the ID, the name, the type, and the status. And that's this page right here, shipment, type, and status. So it's pretty simple to throw that together. Another more complex example is the shipment home controller. So one of the nice things about Spring is you don't have to worry about all these servlet mappings that you typically do in Tomcat. You have all the request mappings right here you define with annotations, with Spring annotations. So it's much easier to define, what part of your code gets called for what URL. So this request mapping specifies that if it comes through as a shipment and then an ID with a GET request, it's going to run this code right here. So we're going to say we're going to display the shipment index view, and I'm just going to go out and find the shipment that was specified by the ID, and we pick the shipment ID up in this path variable annotation. So this shipment ID is picked up here, and then I can use it within my method here. And then we may do things like other ones down here. We can add more items onto this URL, so we can have different URLs that process different parts of the controller. It's pretty standard. So that's essentially how you can use VMforce with Salesforce. It uses the JPA controller or adapter to make queries into Salesforce. And if you've used JPA, it's really not much different than you would use for any adapter for, let's say, MySQL or Oracle or SQL Server. So we'll try to post some more articles and maybe some demos later on.